Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome. I'm the Dead Cowboy. Thank you for joining us on this second video on Meritocracy. Today we're going to talk about Q-Anon, a self-proclaimed government insider or group of government insiders, maybe even Trump himself, nobody knows. Q-Anon might be a government insider. What Q-Anon definitely is not is a government mole, an exposer, an espionage agent revealing all to the people. If you believe that shit, well, I just don't have words for you. Q-Anon is a government propaganda machine written by a team of propaganda experts, not just one person. How dumb can you be? Q-Anon is a propaganda machine designed by right-wing propagandists. You think the government is on your side? You think Trump is on your side? Well, Trump is the government, so how confused can you be? Here's a conspiracy theory. QAnon equals Pizzagate on bath salts. Brought to you by QAnon equals Putin / Trump / Kim Jong-un equals dictators equals Soviet Union socialists. It's incredible that Q followers will believe in pedophile ring conspiracy theories yet not question what Trump did with the missing immigrant children. If there is any evidence of pedophile rings at the highest level of government, Trump and ICE should be the first to be investigated. The Meritocracy Party is a left-wing radical party. The Meritocracy Party is not a liberal or left-wing party. The Meritocracy Party is not a right-wing or fascist political party. In a recent interview on CNN with QAnon and Trump supporters, two were quoted saying that Q was definitely a member or members of high levels of government. When asked if they could prove this, they retorted that it can't be disproven, so therefore there you go. Well, it might be true, although not disproved, although it is highly unlikely, being that there is in fact no evidence. Despite no evidence, the irony is that it is highly likely that it is a group of hired professional propagandists employed by the Trump administration itself, who are in fact at this point in time the highest levels of government. The whole thing really is a clusterfuck. We'd like to commend politics and say good job, us here at Dead Cowboy Central. Good job, Old World Order. We commend you in your immature and ridiculous addiction to power. We commend Q supporters in their promotion of the idea of doing research. We really do. And we do recommend that they start actually doing research instead of blindly believing people that say they did their research or just use the catchphrase, do your own research. But in this video, the Dead Cowboy, Patriot researcher, and Illuminati insider will give you a great place to start. Logical fallacies. Your logical fallacy is burden of proof. As quoted from yourlogicalfallacyis.com, you said that the burden of proof lies not with the person making the claim, but with someone else to disprove it. Well, the burden of proof lies with someone who is making a claim and is not upon anyone else to disprove. The inability or disinclination to disprove a claim does not render that claim valid, nor give it any credence whatsoever. However, it is important to note that we can never be certain of anything, and so we must assign value to any claim based on the available evidence, and to dismiss something on the basis that it hasn't been proven beyond all doubt is also fallacious reasoning. For example, Bertrand declares that a teapot is at this very moment in orbit around the sun between the Earth and Mars, and that because no one can prove him wrong, his claim is therefore a valid one. In other words, it must be true. End quote, yourlogicalfallacyis.com. The Meritocracy Party will be run by round tables of experts, with no elite finance backing and no career politicians of wealth and big corporations feeding conspiracy theories in collusion with foreign dictatorships. The Meritocracy Party, once established and elected in office, will begin to dismantle the old world order. We will begin promoting much higher education as well as education reforms, for example, less indoctrinating. As Noam Chomsky said in Requiem for the American Dream, let's take, for example, indoctrination of the young. From the early 70s, you begin to see a number of processes underway to control college students. If you remember that time, right after the invasion of Cambodia, the country was blowing up. The colleges were closed, people were marching on Wall Street, and so on. And this control takes many forms. College architecture changed. New college architecture from that period, this incidentally is international, was consistently designed to avoid places where students can congregate. So, lead them down alleys or something, but let's not give them things like Sproul Hall in Berkeley, where students can get together and do things. End quote, Noam Chomsky, Requiem for the American Dream. Also, we will begin to teach what they call history from below. That is, the history of the revolutions, the stories from the people who were not wealthy, the history of the people. As quoted from the McCott Library analysis of the Black Jacobins by C.L.R. James, quote, The Black Jacobins is a central text in the history of the Caribbean, and an early and seminal example of what is known as history from below. The book has inspired many interpretations and has been used both as a key work of history and a rallying cry for freedom from oppression. It remains the definitive account of the revolution in Haiti. Today, students, and particularly those with an interest in politics and social action, will benefit from considering the different factors that shape social movements, including the influence of great leaders and the environments in which they develop. More broadly, the Black Jacobins will challenge students to think critically about history. According to the global financial institution, the World Bank, today Haiti is one of the poorest nations in the world, and its history of colonialism, being possessed and exploited by foreign nations, slavery, and independence remains very important in understanding its current political, economic, and social conditions. The Black Jacobins celebrates the intelligence, boldness, and righteousness of the revolutionaries. We might ask what went wrong between then and now, and if Haiti's present poverty is due to it being excluded from the international community after the revolution. The book is a useful starting point in the search for answers. End quote. Nick Broughton, The Black Jacobins, McCott Library Analysis. Taxes will get much higher for the super rich and wealthy, such as Donald Trump and his cronies, as well as all big corporations. Big business will be strictly regulated from becoming superpowers that can ravage the planet and ruin any chance of life for future generations. Things like the Dakota Pipeline will be reconsidered. Power will be systematically given back to the people and the intelligence of the people will be maximized. Intelligence will be promoted through powerful free education, which will be funded through heavily taxing large corporations and the super rich, as well as major organized religions. Many resources for public health, safety, and living standards and education, as well as better job opportunities, will have funding that do not have funding now. Hyperianism will be the promoted religion in a meritocratic state, although religious freedom will still remain. As Noam Chomsky said in Requiem for the American Dream, quote, "Since the 70s, college tuitions have started to climb, by now to ridiculous levels. Again, I don't think we have documents to show that this was specifically planned, but you can see the consequences. For one thing, it deprives large parts of the population of the option of higher education, but even those who are able to go through it, most of them end up trapped by debt. If a student comes out of college with $100,000 in debt, they're trapped. There are very few options they can pursue, and the debt is structured so that they can't repay it. You can't go bankrupt. It's not like a business debt or a personal debt. It's hanging over your head for the rest of your life. They can garnish your Social Security. So, you've got to devote yourself to subordination to power. Pretty much the same as happening in K-12. The tendency in K-12 is reducing education to mechanical skills and undermining creativity and independence, both on the part of teachers and students. That's what teaching to the test is, and that's what No Child Left Behind is, and of course that's what Race to the Top is. I think these should be regarded as methods of indoctrination and control. Of course, one of the other ways to do that has been to simply reduce or eliminate free education altogether. End quote. Noam Chomsky, Requiem for the American Dream, The 10 Principles of Concentration of Wealth and Power. Quote, "I have long been of the opinion that if work were such a splendid thing, the rich would have kept more of it for themselves." End quote. Bruce Grocott. For all their talk about how hard they work, the super rich seem to spend an inordinate amount of time on the golf course, and then living off the income derived from their assets, which requires no effort on their part whatsoever. So much for the hard-working rich. Fuck the super rich. Fuck the corporations. Tax their overprivileged, capitalist, lazy, fat-cast, self-entitled asses. Most of these lazy fucks haven't worked a goddamn day in their lives. Eventually, homelessness will be wiped out, as well as stupidity, and perhaps even crime. We seek a future similar to that depicted in the original Star Trek series. As Martin Luther King Jr. said, quote, "One day we must come to see that an edifice which produces beggars needs restructuring." End quote. Ways you can help promote the Meritocracy Party at this stage in the game is to promote these videos until we can gain enough grassroots momentum to become a viable party in elections. Send emails to political blogs asking them to do a write-up. Write to news stations, share it with celebrities, talk shows, anybody who you think might appreciate it and talk about it. create pamphlets and hand them out at Trump protests or other left-wing rallies or right-wing rallies or whatever, wherever you think the message might be heard. I'm only one person and can only do so much, but together we can get a lot done. With this level of effort, the Meritocracy Party will be running a presidential candidate by 2020 in the United States. Or, at the very least, heavily influencing the 2020 election and primaries. As Gaylord Nelson said in his Earth Day speech in 1970, quote, "Don't drop out of it. Pull together a new national coalition whose objective is to put gross national quality on a par with gross national product." End quote. Intelligent discourse and dialogue will take place at the highest levels of government in a meritocracy, and the interests, safety, health, both physical and mental, and progression of the human race will be the #1 priority. Major organized religions will be taxed under a meritocratic government. The separation of church and state will thereby be restored. Heavy taxes and financial burdens on regular citizens will be abolished. In closing, the dead cowboy would like to quote the great philosopher Plato. Plato said, "There will be no end to the troubles of states, or of humanity itself, till philosophers become kings in this world, or till those we now call kings and rulers really and truly become philosophers, and thus political power and philosophy come into the same hands. Meritocracy is the answer." I'm the Dead Cowboy. Be sure to subscribe and follow, and thank you for watching. Welcome to the Meritocracy Party. Ad Astra, to the stars.